All right, I'd like to thank you all for coming here this afternoon to learn about some offline mapping. My name is Mark. I'm kind of sitting behind the podium here. We've got a lot of demoing to do. And I've got Brent on the end and Doug next to me. And we're here from the field operations team, so field apps. That's primarily what we work on. And we're going to talk about offline maps, and we're going to show demonstrations that are occurring in the apps from Esri, the field apps, field operations apps. But for any developers in the room, the offline techniques that we'll be showing you, the offline mapping strategies, they all apply to runtime applications because, of course, all the field operations apps are just runtime applications as well. So just a little bit about what we're talking about today specifically regarding the apps is field operations, the ability to take your map out into the field. If you've got an internet connection, that's great. When you don't, you want to have everything on your device. And what we're really talking about here for us is Survey 123, Collector, Navigator, and Explorer, and some of the offline capabilities. That's where our demonstrations will be. But just remember that they apply to any runtime application that you might develop as well. So why are we doing this? So apps are not always connected. And so there's internet issues, but there are other reasons that you may not want to use an online map as well. Maybe the network is really expensive. So you want to have as much of the data on device as possible and work offline. The offline mapping functionality, it needs to work in the field. And our offline maps support vector data, imagery. You still get the GPS location even when you're disconnected from a network. There's feature search capability that you can build into the maps. You can have routing for apps like Navigator and pop-up information to allow you to get all of the features that you need in the field, all coming from the device. And the basic thing is that workers can get their work done when they need to get it done, even if they don't have the internet, when they don't have a network. So that's why we're here. And what we're going to take a look at is we're going to take a look at mobile map packages. We're going to look at offline base maps for use in the apps. And we'll look at enabling web maps for offline use, the ability to take a map offline. And as we go, we'll be demonstrating what happens in the applications. And at the end, we'll talk about some future plans that we have for offline mapping. All right. So mobile map packages, that's what we'll start with first. And before I jump too far into this, how many people in the room are currently doing offline mapping activities? Okay, a lot of you. Are you already currently using apps like Explorer? Raise a hand. Oh, okay. How about Collector? Yeah, a couple of Collectors. Any Navigator users in the room? One? Okay. All right, cool. So mobile map packages, as I just mentioned, Navigator and Explorer, those are the apps that make use of mobile map packages. In the case of Navigator, you can put private roads and private network data sets into them to allow people to route without a network connection. So no connection needed to get driving directions turn by turn. Explorer, we like to think of this as kind of like a digital version of a paper map that you can take into the field, but it's much more than a paper map. You have access to features. There's also capabilities for anonymous use, being able to share a map with people who are not a member of your organization. And we'll be taking a little look at that. And of course, developers, the Runtime SDK, delivering apps that have mobile map packages, or even configuring App Studio to make use of mobile map package as a tailored application. And mobile map packages, how do you make them? You make them in ArcGIS Pro. And that's what we'll be taking a little look at next. So how to create mobile map packages and deploy them. So I'll just give you a little overview here of the slides. So the first thing that you do is use ArcGIS Pro, load in all of the data that you're familiar with that you want to put into an offline map. It's a purpose-driven map for work in the field. Then share this map to Enterprise or online. So you'll upload this map to ArcGIS Online or your portal. Once it's there, users within your organization can download the map to their device. So they just sign into their device and they'll see all of the maps that have been shared with them. So they'll see web maps, but they'll also see mobile map packages right on the device. They download the device and open the map and use it. If later on you make updates to that map, you just share it back to your portal ArcGIS Online. You're overwriting the map that's already there. The application will automatically detect that there's a new map, and the user will be alerted that there's a new map available that they can download or not. So that's the general workflow for how to kind of manage these mobile map packages to your workforce. And of course, there's another optional thing that you can do is you can sideload maps to devices. So you can connect a device to a computer iOS device and sideload through iTunes, or on Android devices, just copy the mobile map package directly to the device. So that's another option. In that case, you don't have quite the same update notifications. You want to use ArcGIS Online for that. So there could be a bazillion slides showing you how all this works, but one of the best things to do is just to jump into ArcGIS Pro and kind of show you the lay of the land and some best practices for how to use mobile map package or how to create them. And I've got a couple of links in the slide here, and there's some blog articles out here, and I just want to highlight one of these, and that's this first one. And this blog article goes step by step through the process of using ArcGIS Pro to create a mobile map package. It's on GeoNet, and it kind of starts out by sharing the location of an Explorer map, so you can look at the map and explore, get an idea for how it works, and then use ArcGIS Pro to learn how to create that same map. And for those of you who are representing your organization, and maybe you've got some people who are trying to learn how to use ArcGIS Pro, this is a great document for that too, because it goes literally from start ArcGIS Pro, start project, and go through every step of the way. So it's a good way to learn Pro in the process as well. So, all right. And then I just have another one in the slide deck here. Once they share the slides that you can have, that just some more functionality for adding hillshade to mobile map packages. But what I want to do is look at base maps, operational layers, and kind of explain just the basic layout of a mobile map package. So let's take a look at ArcGIS Pro. Oops. Come on, go. Oops, wrong one. Come on. All right, let me do the old way, fashioned way. All right. So here I've got ArcGIS Pro open. How many ArcGIS Pro users do we have in the room? Okay, good, a good bunch, great. So mobile map package. I'm showing you the way that I kind of construct them in ArcGIS Pro and keep things straight. So how many of you are familiar with base maps? Come on, everybody's hands, right? Okay, base map, and then we have operational row layers that go on top of the base map. So with mobile map packages, we want to use base maps too. That's the first best practice. Always use a base map in your mobile map package. The base map is your background imagery, or it's just background data that users don't have to interact with. So a base map, you don't access attributes, you don't search for anything. It's just a picture. So vector tile packages, they make good base map data, and then any feature data that just adds color and meaning to the map that doesn't need to be interacted with by the user. Operational layers are the layers that provide information to the user. So these are your points that you want to click on to get pop-ups, or you want to search for them, or do fancy labeling. That's what you want to use your operational layers for. And so in ArcGIS Pro, I generally work with 3 tabs. So I've got 3 tabs here, and right now we're looking at the base map tab. And I get this question a lot, so I'm going to take a look at it, and that's how do I get a base map? And on the Insert tab in ArcGIS Pro, you click New, and you do New Base Map. And that'll give you a type of map inside of Pro. And that's what you want to put all of your base map information into. And that's what I've done here with this one. So if we just take a look at it, I've got a vector tile package of Palm Springs, and I've got a routing network data set. So for anyone using Navigator, put your network data set in the base map. And so I've got that. Okay, that's great. Now I've got this other map over here called VTPK source, vector tile package source. And now we're not seeing anything right now because I've set this up with scale dependencies. And when you create a vector tile package, and this is the part that I really want everyone to get, vector tile packages, it's the best way to display vector information on a mobile device. It's the most performance, it looks great, the end use of the application is just smooth, everything is good. So always use a vector tile package whenever you can to represent your data. And we'll get a little bit more into that in a second. But if I just take a quick look here, go back to the map, go to the bookmarks. I've got this map that's Palm Springs area, and it's also got the wind turbine field out to the north of us. And if we take a look at these wind turbines, I zoom out and I zoom in on the map, and we see that they're growing. You know, they're growing in size, or they're getting smaller as I zoom. So I'm also trying to represent everything with as few layers as possible. And this is just one little thing that I want to point out about ArcGIS Pro, and that's the ability to scale symbols at the renderer level. So if I just take a quick look at this one here, this is just like an extra pro tip. And look at the properties for this symbol. You can see here that there's enable scale-based sizing. And so if you've got a value renderer with a bunch of different symbols, you can scale them all differently, and it really just makes for a great experience. And the beauty of the whole thing is that when you create your vector tile package, all of that symbol scaling is burned into the tile packages. So that's the end user sees that result. And it just makes for a map that doesn't have multiple layers representing the symbology, declutters the map. It's just really a nice approach to take. So what I've done here is I've set myself up to create a vector tile package with all of my layers, all the scaling. And to do that, we use a geoprocessing tool, which is create vector tile package. And at create vector tile package in Pro, we'll take whatever's in your map and create a vector tile package of it, which is great. And then you can use that as just a layer in your map. So if I click over here to the Palm Springs, I've ran this tool, created my vector tile package. I simply add that in as a layer in my map. I click the base map tab here. The base map in my project always appears in the base map gallery. I click base map, and that loads it in as the base map for this map. And I have kind of my final product. So what I like to do is have a final product map and then have my working parts of the map in Pro. Once I've got this, I can enable the ability to search location, search for features. You do that through the Locate tab, Settings, add your layer into Locate, and then define the search properties for it. You can also add locators as search to mobile map packages. So build a locator, add that to your project, and it allows you to search. So looking at my map here, I've got everything set up. I zoom in, I see the vector tile packages. And if I go over here to the hotel area, I see the hotel. I've also applied the symbol scaling to these trees. As I zoom in and out, we see the trees get smaller, and we see them grow in size as I zoom in. And I've got labeling turned on. And so if we take a look here, I've got my operational layers. I've got this interior points layer. That's where the labels are coming from. I've also got them 99% transparent because I don't really want to draw the points. I just want the labels to show, but if people click or tap on the labels, they'll still be able to get a pop-up. So that's the other technique, 99% transparent. Same thing here with these wind turbines. So if I zoom back out to those, and we can see them here, and they start growing in size. I'm using the feature layer, my operational layers, to label them, and also 99% transparent, so they're clickable, but I'm using the vector tile package to actually draw them, because that'll give me the best performance. Now with points, it's generally pretty good, but if you have a lot of lines, like streams, rivers, things like that, a vector tile package is the best way to display them. You can even label lines. Vector tile labels for lines work fairly well. Or use feature labels, but it's all about performance and making the end device not work so hard. And vector tile package, again, the best way to go. And then, yeah, so that's that piece. And then just down here, we can also make use of imagery in the maps. If I zoom in a little closer, we'll see that imagery come on. I'm using a tile package for the imagery in here, and I've got it set to turn that at a certain scale when you zoom into the map. So this way field workers can get a better idea for what the conditions are going to be like on the ground when they get there. And we use a tile package for that. So I've got those setting in my map as operational layers, and then I've got, my base map layers that we talked about before. So once I have this, I'm ready to share it as a mobile map package. And there's two ways that you can do that in ArcGIS Pro. You can use a geoprocessing tool, which is the Create Mobile Map Package tool. And we take a look at that over here. And type that one in. All right, the Create Mobile Map Package tool. It's pretty straightforward. You choose an output location. This will is going to write the mobile map package to your disk. You can choose to include locators in the package if you want to use them for search. You can also specify an area of interest. So you might have a world map, but you only want to make a map of your county. So you can clip out the area of your county and share that out as a mobile map package rather than doing the whole thing. And another thing is going down, choosing how to clip features. There's a bunch of credentials, but I want to point out this last checkbox on the list, which is enable anonymous use. So if you want to create a mobile map package that can be used by anyone, someone who isn't going to sign into your organization, an application like Explorer for ArcGIS, you can use it without signing in. And you have access to anything that's shared with you, including anonymous use mobile map packages. This option is available with the publisher extension. So using the publisher extension, it gives you the option to create these anonymous use maps. And I said that there were two ways to share. And so we'll take a look at the sharing ribbon. And there's this share mobile map button. The UI is very similar to the Create Mobile Map Package tool. Let's see, wait for that to come up. But it's a little more streamlined. So the Create Mobile Map Package tool is a geoprocessing command. You can run it as part of a Python script. So if you want to automate the packaging process and kick things off on a regular basis, you can do that. If you're just going to make kind of one-off things, I just want to take what I'm looking at and share it as a mobile map packages, the ribbon tool is the one for you. So basically zoom to the map the way you want it and just share it as it looks on your screen. And it will automatically upload it to ArcGIS Online or the portal that you're signed into. And you just give it a couple tags. And again, include a locator, enable anonymous use, and then choose who you want to share it with. And you just package the tool, and it will either write it to disk or share it directly to ArcGIS Online. So at this point, I'd like to take it over to Brent, and he'll show you what the end result looks like in Navigator.
Thanks. Thanks, Mark. Assume you can hear me in the back. Here you go, thumbs up. All right. What you're seeing here is I've gone ahead and I've downloaded that mobile map package. I'm in Navigator right now, and I've downloaded the mobile map package that Mark just kind of walked through creating. So Mark went ahead, shared it with me. I'm signed in as that user, and I can see that mobile map package, and I've downloaded it already. And I'm zoomed way out so you can see the extents of that mobile map package. So that was clipped to those extents. So you can create a MMPK or mobile map package that is very refined to your work area. And this obviously limits the size of the data. If I was to tap on the GPS button, top right, it'll zoom me in to my current location. And you're starting to see some of those vector tiles that Mark was talking about in his demo. So as I zoom in, some of these turn on, some of the labeling shows up, and some of the trees get larger and smaller based on the scale. So it's a really nice mapping experience, and everything is local here on my device, so I don't need any connectivity to the internet whatsoever. Now, since Mark also authored Locator, I can search on that, and I can actually search offline. So a very popular capability of MMPKs is really just the ability to query for your features and see different attributes. If I was to tap on this, it would go ahead and find that attribute for me, and then I can tap on it and drill into its pop-up. So not only working with my map and the vector tiles, but it's actually your whole GIS taken offline. So I always say a mobile map package is really just a mini GIS that you can just pull onto a device and work with without any connectivity whatsoever. Now, Mark also showed imagery, and this is also very popular. So there's a TPK in this mobile map package. So as I slowly zoom in, you see the labels for those features which Mark authored are showing up. I can tap on any one of these, but when I zoom in a little closer, that imagery clicks on. So you don't want to see the imagery all the time, but when you're at a very close scale, you're going to want to maybe see that imagery. So this is in the form of a TPK, and it just turns on because there's a scale dependency that Mark had in his project. Zooming out a little bit more, if I was to tap on any of these are selectable. So I have now selected one of these features, and I can see its pop-up. So if I was to tap on directions here, since there's a network in this mobile map package, it would generate from my current location a route directly to using that onboard network to this feature. But I also get access to pop-ups, and this is something that's new in this release of Navigator. You're looking at the 19.1 release of Navigator, which is in kind of pretty late stage beta. We hope to have it out in a month or so. But if you're interested in kicking the tires, no pun intended, please come and see me, and I can get you a release or get you directions to install this beta of Navigator. Now, what you'll notice in this pop-up is that Mark has gone ahead and authored a link, and he's used what's called a URL scheme to link out to one of our other apps, to Survey 123. So if I was to tap on this report status, this is actually a URL scheme. So when I tap on this, it actually jumps me out to an app like Survey 123. So this is a really powerful capability. Since both of these apps work completely offline and I have Survey 123 on my device, I can use that URL scheme that's in the pop-up for this feature to jump out and maybe complete a survey offline, and then once I'm done, I could jump back to Navigator and use Navigator to get to my next feature. So that's why I say mobile map package is really just a full GIS on your device. It's a nice compact file format that gives you everything you need to get your job done. So yeah, in summary, mobile map package is a powerful way to work with your data offline, and it encapsulates everything in your pro project in a nice compact package that you can quickly download and work with offline. You go back to you, Mark.
All right, thanks, Brent.
Now, one thing I do want to talk to, and you mentioned a little bit, I know I've gotten this question a bunch, I know you have too, Mark, is you mentioned it's a geoprocessing tool to create those mobile map packages. Is that right?
That's correct, or the sharing ribbon.
Or the sharing ribbon. So if you want to automate that workflow of creating mobile map packages maybe every night and then sharing those out, that's relatively easy to do through the Python API and using a number of GP tools. And I know, do we have any doc on that, Mark?
No, there needs to be some.
All right.
I need to write some specifically.
This is a way of me guilting Mark into it, publicly shaming it.
Well, there's documentation.
Unintentional, of course.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's lots of Python documentation, but specific to creating mobile map packages, probably not. But we can get something up there. One of the other things that I just wanted to mention about this too is that what we showed was really a purpose-driven map. You know, our offline maps are built to get work done. And so I specifically was creating a Navigator map that would allow people to go and inspect wind turbines And that's what Brent showed us there. So always be thinking about how your users are going to use the map when you make it. Don't just take anything you got in the office and say, hey, oh, here's a map. Go out in the field. You can really tailor it to what they're doing. Oops. Yeah, sure. Okay, so back to the slides here. Okay, demo. We just did the demo. And the next thing we want to do is, switching gears from mobile map packages. We're going to talk a little bit about the offline base map. And an offline base map for collector users, you're very familiar with the idea of taking a vector tile package or in Collector Classic, TPK. Did Collector Classic support the VTPK too? No, that's just TPKs in Collector Classic. But the idea is you basically take one of these vector tile packages or tile packages like we just saw in that Navigator map. The imagery was a tile package, and most of the rest of the data that you saw was vector tile packages. You simply copy those to the device. And an application like Collector, as we see in the picture here on the slide, will just show that side-loaded file as a base map that users can choose to use. So when they're in the office, they can side-load that tile package to the device. They go outside, they lose internet connection. That side-loaded data is available to them as a base map, and they can still have something in the field to make use of. I've put a few links in here. These are specific to Survey 123 and Collector, which talks about how to sideload maps to the device. And those are kind of the primary applications that we see people using this approach for with sideloading. So a follow-up slide. App Studio can use pretty much every sideload or mobile map package option out there. Collector Survey 123, sideload, Explorer, and Navigator use mobile map packages for your offline map. Now I've talked a lot about vector tile packages, and I want to do something a little special for the people here today at the end of the day. We at the Esri and the Esri labs, using the runtime, you can extract vector tiles from a vector tile service to get a vector tile package. And we often get asked at Esri, how do I get one of those Esri base maps offline? And the answer is to use the runtime SDK and extract tiles from the service. But working with some of the people in Esri labs, we made a little application, and I'm sharing with you right now. And what this one does is it allows you to extract the OpenStreetMap tiles from the OSM vector tile service. And basically you can zoom into anywhere in the world, and you can basically draw an extent. So if I sign in here, which I should have done prior to demonstrating, just do that quickly. You can create a box. I probably didn't pick the most interesting area out in the Mojave, but you draw a box, and then you simply click a button, and this will extract a vector tile package from the server and download it to your device. That vector tile package you can then bring into ArcGIS Pro as a layer and use it as your base map. So I'd like to get your feedback on this. So Mark Bockenhauer, M. Bockenhauer at Esri, and just like to hear what you think of it if you want to give it a try. So thanks. So a little something special. Yeah, a little bonus. All right. So, that's the link right there. Whoops, what was that? That's the link right there that you had. Yeah, this link right here, yeah. That's the link. And these slides will be available next week, I believe, too, for this session. Okay, everybody got it? All right. And so next we're going to look at offline workflows, the idea of taking a web map offline. And for that, I'm going to pass it over to Doug.
Great. Thanks, Mark. So So Mark and Brent showed you how you can use mobile map packages to get your data onto devices in areas where you don't have connectivity. There are also other workflows supported with web maps. So obviously web map is a core component of the WebGIS model, and that is certainly something that we want you to be able to take wherever you need to work. So currently in our field apps, we have two main workflows of how you can take your web map offline. One is what we call the on-demand workflow. So this is the workflow that we've had in Collector for a number of years, which allows you to define that I want that map to be taken offline, or allow that map to be taken offline. And each time the field worker on their device says, I want to take that map offline, they define some things. They define the area and the level of detail for the base map. And then the server, each time that request is sent, it extracts the operational layers into a mobile geodatabase, sends that to the device, and as well as any tile layers, as well as the base map. And that's something that we will continue to support into the future. We have recently added support for what we now call pre-planned offline workflows. So this is where, rather than each mobile worker defining the area, extent, the level of detail, this is now something that the map author or the GIS administrator can do. And that really simplifies the field worker experience, because you're basically downloading, you're just saying, hey, I want to download this named area that's already been pre-configured and already pre-built. And that does have a couple of additional efficiencies built into it. So one is, if you are running ArcGIS Enterprise, regardless of how many mobile workers you have out in the field, maybe you have a few hundred workers that come in every morning on a Monday morning, and they're going to start a project, your server infrastructure and an on-demand workflow is going to suffer a little bit, because it's having to process each of those field workers for offline map requests independently. With pre-planned workflows, it's only processed once, and all that is happening is that each field worker is downloading that to their device. So much faster, and then obviously also much easier to scale for larger deployments. Okay, so let's just take a quick look through the on-demand user experience. So again, we talked about that field worker making that decision that I want to take that map offline. There are some prerequisites for taking a web map offline. Any of your operational layers, feature services, need to have sync enabled. And any base map or any tiled layers, tiled services, need to have export tiles enabled. So that's the prerequisite to take your map offline in either of these workflows. But basically, they're just going to select the web map they want to take. In this case, we're showing this in Collector. They're going to say, I want to add an offline area. You define the area of extent that you're going to be working, optionally the level of detail, and then you download it. For the most recent release of Collector, there is some optimizations. I can use things like bookmarks, my current location, to help me get oriented to take the right area offline. So again, contrasting that with the pre-planned user experience, again, that's performed by the map author. That's done in the web map item details. We'll take a quick look at that. And then at that point, you can have that package update on a regular basis. All right. And again, thinking about how does that manifest itself in the application. Again, we're using Collector here, but you'll see on the top, on the left-hand side here, I have the Collector map. I tap on that. I see a list of offline areas that I can download. I simply tap on one of those, and that's now available to me. So again, much simpler, a lot fewer decisions to make, a lot less room for error on the mobile worker's perspective, so probably saves you all some phone calls of people not doing this the right way the first time. Okay, with that, let's take a look at how this works. All right, good. All right, so here I'm in ArcGIS Online. and I have a web map, and I'm looking at the details for that web map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can develop, build some pre-planned offline areas for your web maps. So here I'm going to go to the settings, and I'm going to look at, you'll see I have a few tabs here. I have an offline setting here, section here. And let's take a quick look at the offline section. So there's two pieces. One is this offline. Again, you as the map author can determine whether you want this map to be used offline or not. In some cases, you may not. You may want that data to always be, you expect them to be connected and use it in such a way. And then there's these map areas. So this section is new. This is available in ArcGIS Online today. It is going to be available in ArcGIS Enterprise 10.7 or later. So if you're looking for an excuse to upgrade your ArcGIS Enterprise instance, this is a really good one. Okay, so we've got a few map areas here. I'm just going to start managing my map areas. And what this is going to do, you can see that I have 5 map areas already predefined. So again, thinking about, as the author, I'm going to define these areas that my field workers will see when they open Collector, for example. So very easy to create and define a map area. I just tap on New Map Area. I can give it a name, North Park. And then I can determine the level of detail for my base map. So this is probably familiar in other parts of the ArcGIS platform. You can determine what level of detail they're going to need. Obviously, the greater the detail, the bigger the download size, so something to be considering. And then you can determine whether or not you want that package to automatically refresh. Now, one of the things to be clear about here is that does not mean these packages ever go stale. It's just when the person downloads it, they basically will get the initial download, and then we will call a sync operation and get the rest of the data that may have happened since that package was created. So you don't have to rebuild these on a regular basis if your data is not changing a lot. But it is something to be aware of. Okay, so in terms of defining the area, all I need to do is simply draw a box here. I'll just move over a little bit. And again, I can make that rectangle any shape or size that I want. So if I'm working with a long linear corridor, hopefully it's east-west, because that's obviously easiest. That is a way to optimize that, and I can define that to any size. We do, of course, have some maximum sizes based on the number of tiles you can take down. But for vector tiles, that's a really, really large area if you're using our base maps. So not really a concern. So once I've defined the area, all I need to do is save that, and it's going off and starting to create that map area. And you'll see here that it says that it's packaging. So what is it doing when it says it's packaging? Well, it's doing a couple of things. It's adding some, it's basically extracting all those operational layers and creating those mobile geodatabases, those SQLite geodatabases that are part of that particular map. You may have one, you may have several, depending on how many feature services you have. And then in this case, I have one vector tile package, which is my base map. That is also present. So again, this is all sort of done on the server once, and then is just available for the client to download. All right, so now we've finished with our management of areas. So we talk about, obviously, download size is important. For some things, you need a really large area, really high level of detail on that base map. There are other ways you can do to optimize that workflow. You can use what we call the advanced options. This controls how much data and what type of data you download for your layers. That can be for your editable and read-only layers. You can determine whether or not I just want schema. I'm going out, I'm basically treating my field workers as sensors. They're just collecting data. They don't need anything else. What we do see a lot of people doing is saying, if in cases where I have a lot of data that's already present, I don't want to download the attachments for that. If they're going out and doing asset inventory, they don't want to see all of that information available to them. Obviously, that can be quite large on the download size. So just wanted to point that out. So now we've taken a look at how you can create pre-planned areas in ArcGIS Online or in ArcGIS Enterprise 10.7. Let's take a quick look of what that looks like here from Collector. So again, I have a series of web maps that I've got available to me. This hydrant inventory map is the map that we were just looking at. And you can see that I have a series of offline map areas. One of these I've already downloaded. If I wanted to download multiple, if I knew I was going to be working in multiple areas, I can download as many of these as I like. That is something that's new. That also is true for on-demand areas. So if you're going to be working in two areas that are disjoint, you can take two small areas offline and go out to the field. So let's go ahead and open our offline map area here. We're not really, but we're pretending we're in San Diego today. And you'll notice that, of course, I have great looking maps. I have vector-based maps. I have a lot of the capabilities that you expect to see in your online map. I have labels. I have things like feature search. All of this is available to me. I'm going to highlight a couple of the new capabilities available for working offline in Collector. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to collect a new fire hydrant here. If anyone's been near the Hard Rock Cafe, we're there. I'm just going to go ahead and do a quick collection here. I'm going to add a photo. And I'm going to enter in some information. So I'm going to enter the number 1221 for my facility ID, set the install date, manufacturer, and the last service date is today. And once I'm happy, I can go ahead and submit that edit. Again, because I'm working in an offline map area, that information is sitting on my device. It's just been stored locally. And while I'm working, of course, I may occasionally get connectivity. I may break for lunch. I may hit a Starbucks because I'm craving some caffeine. I can then easily, I don't have to really switch contexts. I can just easily sync that information back up to, if I have edits or to get edits down from the server, I can simply do that directly from within the map. So in this case, I've never synced this particular offline area since I've downloaded it. But all I need to do to sync that is tap the button. You'll also notice here, if you look down below, there's a list of pending edits. So oftentimes it's really good to be able to review any collection that I've done over the course of a couple of hours before I sync it. I can simply tap on that to go back to that feature. Maybe I want to review that, make sure I've got all my information there. The other thing that we've added in Collector is the ability to auto-sync. So what auto-sync really is we've heard from many customers, they can't always, their field workers are busy, they're not thinking about it, they may temporarily get some connectivity. They want that data to get back to the office as quickly as possible. They certainly don't want to have to remind their folks to sync at the end of the day. So auto-sync is a way to schedule that so it tries on a specified interval, which you can control, 15 minutes or 30 minutes and 1 hour. And it will just try in the background to send that data and then get any data changes that have happened on the server for that area. So just an optimization that if you turn this on, you're going to see your data probably flow back a lot more easily. Also make your field workers a lot happier. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'll just manually sync that. And then of course, when I'm syncing, that data is being exchanged. In this case, this map is set for bidirectional sync, which means first what happens is we send any local edits up to the server, the feature services, and then if there are any edits in that area, we'll pull those down. So once this sync is completed, you see that my list of pending edits is done, so I can go home for the day. So that's a quick view of how you can create pre-planned areas, how you can work offline, and how you can sync those edits back to your enterprise instance. All right, so with that, let's take a look at offline in some of our other field apps with web maps, and I'll turn that back over to Brent.
Thanks, Doug. So couple Explorer users in the audience. I saw some hands go up. So this is the 19.1 release of Explorer that we're working on right now on the same iOS device I showed before. So one of the big features of the 19.1 release is support for these pre-planned areas, as well as support for on-demand. Now, Explorer is a read-only application, so we want to be able to allow field workers to easily take information offline, whether it be in the form of a mobile map package, as on-demand workflow, or pre-planned. But obviously, working offline is a key thing that Explorer needs to be able to do. So I'm in the Maps browser. You see this exact same web map that Doug just edited. And I can jump into it. And since it has offline areas, I can tap through. And I've already gone ahead and downloaded that downtown offline area that Doug was talking to. But you can see all the others there. And I can tap on any of these little clouds with the arrows to download more offline areas. And it takes, of course, the base map, everything that's packaged up, including the features. Now, since Doug made an edit to that and synced that edit to the server, I can actually sync my offline area as well, and it'll pull down anything new that might have happened since I downloaded this offline area. So just tapping on the ellipse, tapping on sync, that's going to go ahead and pull everything down to my device. I'll give it a little bit of time here. So we think this will be a really powerful workflow. If you don't want to go through the rigmarole as a map author of creating all the great things that Mark did in MMPK, maybe you can just go into a web map and create different offline areas to be able to take offline. Then it's really easy for your field workers to just say, yep, I'm going to go work in South Park today. So tap on that little arrow and you get everything. But if you already have it, just tap on sync before you leave the office while you still have connectivity. Now that it's synced up, I can open that and you see that 1221 hydrant feature that Doug just edited. What's really interesting too is I can also search for that. So search is also authored into this offline. So if I paste that in here, I can find that attribute very easily and tap on it again. So just a quick example of how all our apps are going to be using these pre-planned areas moving forward. So this will be available in beta very shortly, and we'll actually have it out for final in time for the user conference. So if you're interested in participating in that beta, again, another plug, this time for Explorer. So just come see me and I can get you hooked up with the iOS or Android versions of this. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Brent. So, might not be in the right spot. So what I want to say here is that we've just looked at the ad hoc pre-planned as a future thing coming, and we have a few more things on this list that are here now and coming in the future. So right now with ArcGIS Pro 2.3, if you use the create map tile package command, that's what creates TPKs in ArcGIS Pro, way to create them. There's an option for a TPKX file. This is a new version of the TPK, which has been just optimized and streamlined a bit. It works the same way, but, well, it doesn't work exactly the same way because our current applications that are in release don't support this TPKX file. So what will happen if you use it, you just won't see it. But our app's coming out later this year on Runtime Update 5, 100.5, will have support for the TPKX file. So I just wanted to mention that. Another one that I don't have on this list, there's a new locator format that you can also create in ArcGIS Pro. And that locator is not supported in our current apps, but will be in Runtime 100.5. And some of you might be asking, why are you making these things and letting them be put into a mobile map package when they don't work yet? And I just wanted to explain a little bit about how we build software at Esri. We have an ArcGIS Pro team that is on a release cycle. That's on a release cycle that wants to release ArcGIS Pro. And then we have a runtime team, developing what we work on. We build the apps on top of that. And syncing up those schedules is kind of tough. And we're taking the approach with mobile map packages to, since they don't do any harm, the things just won't work. We aren't locked into a release cycle. So I don't have to wait all the way till another version of Pro comes out before we get this stuff. Runtime Update 5 is coming out within the month. We'll build our apps on it, and we should have this support before Pro 2.4 is released. So that's why we're doing this. So we just kind of get things out faster, and just wanted to share that with you. But along with that, annotation that you create in Pro 2.3, that is supported. I know I've had the question about when are we going to have annotation support, and that's coming in Update 5. Map reference scales, if you make use of reference scale in maps, that's coming in Update 5. And then map expiration. So in Pro 2.4, we will be writing map expiration, hopefully, into the maps and supporting it. It's kind of out there ways, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have it in there. What map expiration will allow you to do is set timeouts for the map. So if you think about that anonymous use case, we have a lot of people that want to share maps information with people who are not a member of their organization. A lot of times these people are contractors that are just hired for a temporary amount of time to get some work done. Once that contract is over, the map times out and the information is no longer available to them. So that's kind of the main idea behind it. But of course, there are other use cases too. There might be seasonal maps, information that's only valid for this year, and I don't want people using the wrong map next year. I want them to make sure they use a new one. So it times out and the map just isn't usable on that device anymore after that time. So that's a look at a few things coming. And that kind of brings us to the end. And if you want to have the app installed, you can fill out a survey, let us know how we can do better. That would be great. And would love to open up the floor to taking questions or additional comments from.
So yeah, just a couple of things on what's coming in the future. There's a couple of things in addition to what Mark's already outlined. So we talked about the pre-planned offline workflows, and it's a box of some sort, a rectangle. We are adding support for irregular areas. So if you've got the worst case scenario where you've got a rail line that's kind of diagonal southeast to northwest, you can define that polygon shape to just minimize the amount of data that you're taking offline. The other enhancement that I wanted to mention is the ability to support the base maps by reference. So if, as Mark talked about, sideloading those base maps, if you are going to use that base map that you're sideloading as your web maps base map, when you go download an on-demand or pre-planned area, you can define that in the web map itself. Along with those advanced offline options, you'll be able to say, I want to use this particular base map, a TPK or VTPK or TPKX very shortly. And that really minimizes the size of the download, because for most people, the base map is the single biggest thing that you're downloading. By sideloading that on iOS through iTunes or through an SD card, perhaps on Android, those are ways that you can really speed that delivery and minimize the download size, especially if you're working in areas with limited bandwidth. So those are both coming to Collector very shortly, and will be coming to Explorer as well.
All right, thanks, Doug. Anything to add, Brent? Anything come to mind?
No.
No? All right. All right, I saw a hand come up over here. Let's try right in here, front row.
Can I use the Python API to make a pre-planned map area?
So the question is, can I use the Python API to make a pre-planned map area? Doug?
So the answer is yes. It is actually even in the available through the API, Python API for ArcGIS Enterprise 10.6.1. So if you are 10.6.1, the internals are there. The UI is only ArcGIS Enterprise 10.7. But yeah. Yep.
Okay, right, another one, right?
Can you create a map package with the version features from Enterprise?
So the question is, can you create a mobile map package that contains versioned features? So yes, anything that you have in ArcGIS Pro, well, I shouldn't say anything. Okay, so mobile map packages, if it's an HTTP data source, You can't include that in the package. The tool will block. It only wants server-based things like SDE, feature services. That's an exception. Those are HTTPS. What did I just say? No. Okay, so feature services are the exception. If you were to open up, let's just say it this way. If you open up a web map in ArcGIS Pro, the feature services will get written into the package, but the base map will not, because the base map is vector tiles or it's a dynamic map service. Those can't be included in the package, but anything that's geodatabase can be geodatabase features.
So just to summarize, so just correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but if he has an enterprise instance that has version enterprise geodatabase there, he can work a specific version of those features into a mobile map package.
Right. Yeah. That's correct. Question here?
So, did you say that the mobile map packages are only for Navigator and Explorer?
All right, so the question is, where do mobile map packages work currently today? And yes, mobile map packages, well, they work in Explorer, Navigator, and App Studio. And any runtime developer can develop apps to make use of them as well.
Yeah, so a lot of our many customers are creating mobile map packages and using it as kind of a provisioning mechanism for their custom runtime apps as well. So if you just need a map to sit with your actual app itself, mobile map packages are a really nice option for you as well. Yeah, in the back there.
Okay, so it's been a while since I worked with the collector. You could outline an area that you were going to work with. Is it then in Portal and sort of did it then create the map package and stage it on the server, and that's what you went offline with?
So
it's still there. And
so the question was, in previous releases of Collector, you could define a map area and take that map offline. What was actually happening when you did that? So that's that on-demand workflow we kind of talked about a little bit. So that is the, basically per request by Collector to say, hey, define this map area. I'm going to take it offline. That map area is going to be, or the server is going to process those requests, create a tile package, and it's going to create one or more mobile geodatabases. It's going to download that to the client. But those are not stored on the server. So if someone came and asked for that exact same area, you're going to get another request and then another set of mobile geodatabases. It won't be the ones you just created in that first instance. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And then the other part of it is that because we're doing this in ArcGIS Pro and creating those map packages, then like you said, the version, but then all of the cartography would be in there, would be just the way that we meant it to be visualized in our application. With all the scaling and symbols and all.
Right. So the question is about cartography, symbols, and scaling. And I just want to clarify a little bit there. There are a great number of things that you can do in Pro with cartography that aren't directly supported in the runtime. But most of the common things are. And if you do run into something with a feature layer that isn't displaying the correct way, let us know about it. Let us know that that's something that you'd like to see the runtime support. But another technique that you can use, I made use of the vector tile package. If it's possible, vector tile packages, a great number of things in Pro can be written into a vector tile package, and that is supported in the runtime. So if the feature cartography you're using isn't directly supported as a feature, you may be able to create it into a vector tile package and then get the rendering that you want to see, and then just use that technique of 99% transparent if you need access to the features. So
you're talking about like burning it into the VTPK?
Yeah, burning into the VTPK. If you can, try to use that. We are actively working to catch up and close those missing things. And as I alluded to earlier, with the annotation support coming in and reference scale support. I'll go over here. Okay, so the question is, can collector use mobile map packages? And no, collector cannot use mobile map packages today. Maybe in the future, I don't know. We'd like to hear your feedback on that, I guess.
Yeah, I think really, when you think about collector is designed to both collect or asset inventory inspections and the like, and send that data, and also make sure they've got the most recent information coming down from the server if there's other edits being made. The mobile map package is really designed to be a snapshot. So right now, at least the way we have them architected, it doesn't really fit the data collection use cases as well as it fits things like Navigator or Explorer.
Cool. Yeah. Citations and all that information about the sources, and is that all going to be going with it as well? So like if we're pulling Linda's data that's we won't need some people distributed, that information would still be inherent in those map packages.
Right. So the question is about metadata associated with the map packages. So that metadata that is at the layer property level, that's all there in the mobile map packages. Yep. Okay, front row.
Can you include rasters that aren't the base map in the pre-planned area workflow?
So the question was, can you include rasters that aren't part of the base map in the pre-planned workflow? Yes, you can. So if you have another raster or vector tile service that you want to include in the pre-planned offline areas, you absolutely can use those.
Go ahead.
So what about Survey 123? You have an offline map showing up when you open up the survey?
Right. So the question is about having offline maps in Survey 123, and that's the offline base map approach where I talked about copying a tile package for use in collector. TPKs are supported in Survey 123 today, so you can. There's in the documentation on that slide explains how to place a TPK file onto a Survey 123 device and see it as a map. And I know that team is working to support VTPKs in the future as well. All right.
I think you may have mentioned, but for Explorer, was there the ad hoc ability to draw a non-pre-planned area, or is it just pre-planned?
Yeah, so the question was for the next release of Explorer. I'm just going to change your question on you. But there's a reason I'm doing that. Excuse me. The question was for Explorer, the next release of Explorer, is there ability to do the on-demand workflow? So if it's not pre-planned, and the answer is yes. So we're working on that as well. I didn't demo it. Mark and Doug wouldn't give me the time to demo it, but it'll be identical to the workflow you saw in Doug's slides. So we actually share the exact same code there. So yeah, as you could tell from this presentation, we're putting a lot of effort into improving the overall offline capabilities because it's such a key thing for fieldwork, especially on the mobile side. So we want to bring those across. We share a lot of code, and Explorer 19.1 will have on-demand as well as pre-planned.
All right, and this is probably a wider question, but is there any intention or ability to support vector tile packages which enable pop-ups? Like if I had a point feature class with that which had 400,000 records, but I wanted to serve that as vector tile package, is there anything down the line that would enable pop-up? I think similar to Pro that you can interact with vector features and vector tile packages.
Right. So the question about vector tile package pop-up attribute support, basically. And so the runtime is kind of following Pro's lead on that. So we expect to see that stuff work eventually, the things that you saw in those sessions. But yes, that support will be coming.